Yo, what's going on, YouTube family? I hope that everybody's doing well out there. In this video, I wanted to talk about 3 reasons why you might not want to be a UX designer. And what motivated me to create this video are all the other videos out there on YouTube that talk about all the amazing things that come with being a UX designer, whether that's the kind of salary that you make, the fact that you get to work remotely, or the fact that you get to be a freelancer and work on the projects that you want to work on. Those are all great things, but there are downsides to every positive thing out there, right? You might eat too many tacos and get a little bit of heartburn. But anyways, my intent with making this video is not to discourage you from pursuing to become a UX designer, but it is to make you aware of certain things if this is a path that you choose to take. So let's get into it. The first reason that you might not want to be a UX designer is that you're a person who doesn't adapt well to change, and you like stability at all times. You like knowing what's going to happen next. So when you're working on a project, you might start to understand that the thing that you design can't actually be built for some reason or another. It's not feasible to build, and you have to think of an alternative to design. Or the goals and priorities of the business that you work for might totally change, which means that you might need to transition to another team. Another scenario is that you're working on a team and the company that you work for gets bought by a larger company, and there's a merger or acquisition that happens, and you actually now work for a totally different company. Right, so there's a ton of changes that can happen at any time, and I feel like from my own experience, I've lived through all those changes. I've transitioned different teams several times. I have survived multiple layoffs, and project goals have changed up time and time again. I can't even count. The second reason that you might not want to work as a UX designer is that you're a person who lacks patience and empathy. If you thought that picking a restaurant for your girlfriend was tough and you get pissed off at your girlfriend, don't be a UX designer, because you're going to come across a lot of people who don't understand what they want designed. They might not understand the design process, and there's a certain level of education that needs to be involved with the people that you work with or that you work for. So when I've worked with people in the past, there's been plenty of times where it was their first time working with a UX designer and they didn't know what to expect. They might feel a certain level of anxiety about what it takes to get from A to Z when building a product, or they might actually use a totally different language when talking to me about design, right? So they might say, I want this flex box on the screen to do this thing. And I'm like, a flex box, what does that mean? So we have to get on the same page with how we communicate to each other. And that takes a certain level of resilience, because it can get frustrating at times, and a certain amount of grit, right? You got to keep going, and you have to make the other person feel comfortable with opening up to you. So you guys get on the same page about the goals that you're trying to work towards. My third and final reason that you might not want to be a UX designer is that you are a people pleaser. And personally, this is something that I still struggle with today, because it was a habit that I grew up with that I'm still trying to unlearn. I used to be somebody who would say to any stakeholder or executive that I work with, oh, you want that feature? Okay, I'll think about how to do it. If they change their mind 50, 60 times, I'll be like, okay, I'll make the changes. If it becomes unmanageable to make decisions, all right, I will try to learn how to manage it. What I learned from that is that I started to make unhealthy resentments, and the other person wouldn't even know. I would feel a certain way about all those things that I was agreeing to do, and at the end of the day, it really burnt me out, and it wasn't right for myself. So then I had to learn how to create boundaries and learn when to speak up and when to say no to certain things. So yeah, if you're somebody who's still struggling with that yourself, then I would suggest reading a ton of books, go to a therapist, and start practicing that now in your personal life, because when you become a UX designer, it is something that's going to come up that people are going to give you a limited scope of time to complete a project, or they might give you too many tasks to do all at the same time, and you have to learn how to speak up and say no to those things. Alright, YouTube family, so just to recap our 3 points of why you might not want to be a UX designer. The first one is because you might be someone who doesn't adapt well to change. The second reason is because you might be a person who gets pissed off at the folks that you work with. And the third reason is because you might be a person who loves to people please constantly, and you don't meet your own personal needs when you work with a certain project or work with certain people. And what I hope that you take from this video is that these are things that you can start to work on right now. Even before becoming a UX designer, you can start to practice these things on a daily basis. So if you're somebody who people pleases constantly to your partner, learn to speak up about how you feel and tell them how you feel about certain things. If you're somebody who doesn't adapt well to change, and you take a certain route to work every day, take a different route and see how that makes you feel. And you will start to see these changes in yourself, and in the long run, they're going to make you more successful as a UX designer. I promise you that. So if any of these tips help you in any shape or form, or just change the mind, you already know the deal. Comment, like, subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.